In today's video, I'm going to upgrade my brand website to the official .NET 8, which launched recently. I'm currently at .NET 8 release candidate 2, and we're going to bring that up to the official .NET 8 version. For that, I'm going to follow the migration guide from .NET 7 to 8 and skip what is not applicable anymore, because there is no guide from 8 release candidate 1 or 2 to .NET 8, the official one, which is understandable, of course. There are some small changes, however, and my app broke again, so I think we're forced to migrate. So what exactly broke? So I didn't do any code changes. I went ahead and downloaded the .NET 8 official SDK, restarted my computer. I went back to my project and went through the first steps, so the prerequisite steps, which is to update your global JSON to use the .NET 8 official version. This step I had already done to use the release candidate 1 and 2. So that's in every project file you want to upgrade the target framework to .NET 8, and then update all of the NuGet packages to use the .NET 8 version. And then the next step would be to update a Blazor WebAssembly app, because I'm currently using the pre-rendered Blazor WebAssembly setup. First, I want to show you what exactly broke. So everything's still interactive, that's good. So I'm not having any interactivity issues. I did clean and rebuild my projects after upgrading. Sometimes that can do wonders. The problem is I'm authenticated and authorized as an administrator user, but I'm not seeing my administrator features. So there's something going wrong with the rendering after being authenticated. The same for my admin page. Suddenly I only see the not authorized views. I did debug all of that with console.writelines, and it's saying I have access and I am the administrator user, but somehow it's not. These render fragments in here are not the ones I'm expecting. So that's very unfortunate, and the reason why I consider upgrading. So let's take a look. Update the Blazor WebAssembly app. I already did all of the prerequisite steps, and then update Blazor WebAssembly, and then I'm instantly at the hosted Blazor WebAssembly app into a Blazor Web App. So the Blazor Web App is that new template that Microsoft has been showing off for .NET 8. I have to admit, I didn't think they would really force this template on the migration pages. I thought maybe we could still use the old templates if we did .NET new list. And then if we scroll to the Blazor ones, we still see this Blazor server app, even the empty, and the same for the Blazor WebAssembly, empty and WASM. And then you see the Blazor Web App, Blazor, which is that new one that they introduced in .NET 8. Apparently all of the migration docs seem to be leading to that new template. But on the other hand, it is expected, because the differences between a Blazor server app and a Blazor WebAssembly app were just a few lines of code and maybe one file in the release candidate 2. So it does make sense that they streamlined that. But does that mean that they're going to fade out the other templates, or are they going to stay? That's something I can't answer. They do recommend the new template, so. But if they were to get rid of the Blazor server app template, which is a bit redundant now, since if you start a Blazor web app with only interactive server toggled on, that's basically the same as a Blazor server app. And maybe you could make the same argument for if you start a Blazor Web App with only the interactive WebAssembly toggled, that should be this similar or the same as the Blazor WebAssembly templates. But what I wonder is if they were to get rid of the redundant templates, WebAssembly and server, would they also get rid of the Razor Pages template and the model view controller template, since static server-side rendering, so that's basically a Blazor server project without the interactivity, is supposed to be the new replacement for those types of static server-side rendered projects. Model view controller, yeah, maybe that one still exists. Here the Razor Pages one. Okay, so these are still there, but I'd expect those to go first instead of, at least the Razor Pages to disappear first. Anyway, let's not focus about that. Let's do the upgrade. So the prerequisites we've done. Let's take a look. Let's quickly go over it, and then I'm going to switch to my code editor. So step 2 would be the index file to a app component, app.razor, which is something I've already done. The server project. Delete the index.html. Yeah, I already did that as well. Rename the app.razor in the client to routes.razor. That's a change since release candidate 1 or 2, because in my project that's called host.razor, so I'm gonna have to rename that. But that's what I mean with they're streamlining the WebAssembly and the server projects, because in the server project it was called routes.razor, and in the WebAssembly project it was called host.razor, which didn't make too much sense. So that's good that they streamlined that. In the routes.razor, update the value of the app assembly to this. That's something I think I'll have to do. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And then something to the imports.razor, and that are those render modes. So we can skip this render mode.interactive WebAssembly. We can just say interactive WebAssembly. Make a copy, add it to the server project. That's not doesn't make too much sense for me. Okay. And then the rest. Remove the title tag. Is that new? Maybe. The head outlet I already had. Remove that. I already did, and I replaced that with the app component. Now that has to be the routes component. I do want pre-rendering, so I'm just going to use the default value, which I assume is just interactive WebAssembly. And then this Blazor web.js I already have, and it has already caused me trouble. And then that I removed already, and I changed these as well. Anti-forgery, I'm not sure. I think I added that to the pre-render server, so I think that's good. I think I removed all of that. And then maybe this additional assemblies is something I'm still missing. So I have the pre-rendered setup, which consists of a Blazor server project that does the first serve of the Blazor WebAssembly project. So the pre-render server was my server side one, and the SPA is my client side one, the WebAssembly one. Okay, I'm going to start at point number 3. I'm I'm already confused because I have an app.razor and a host.razor, and they told me move everything from the index HTML, so that's this content, to the app.razor. So okay, let's start at number 2. But it's telling me move the index contents to the root of the server project in the app.razor. And currently that seems to live in the host.razor in my client project. So that's going back and forth because it initially came from the server. Let's see. And then the server also needs a and I think I can then remove my host.razor since that's now on server project. Let's delete that one. And then the number 3 is rename the app.razor in the client to routes.razor. So that should be this one. Whoa, I'm able to follow basic instructions. But yeah, in release candidate 1 and 2, I had to move some files back to the client and now back to the server. So that's number 4 says update the value of app assembly attribute to type of program.assembly. So instead of this routes, should be program. Number 5, add an entry to the imports razor to be able to use the shorthand notation for the render modes. So let's put that first in the client and then I have to copy that to the server as well. Let's see, using static render mode, and then I have to make an imports.razor in the server. Can I just do it like that and copy that over? Or it's telling me to make a copy of the imports razor from the client and put it and add it to the server project. Okay then. That's actually how it used to be. I don't know why they're flip-flopping. Okay. Then remove the title tag and replace it by the head outlet. So I already did that thanks to the release candidate. And now we can use that shorthand notation. Should be Blazor Interactive WebAssembly, and I want pre-rendering on. If I didn't want pre-rendering, I can do something like this. Pre-render false. That's what I could do, but I just want interactive WebAssembly. Shorthand notation, like that. And I'm going to need to set that on the head outlet to update the page title and the head tags, the meta tags, and then I also have to set that on the root of the app, which is now called routes instead of app. And that seems to be good. So that's instead of that div with the ID of app. And then it's telling me to replace the Blazor WebAssembly.js by the Blazor Web.js. That's also something I already did. And then in the client, it's also telling me to remove the root components app and head outlet, which is something I should have already done as well. So that's good. Then let's take a look at this server, so the program CS. Yeah, that host can go. And instead of this host, it's probably gonna have to be app or routes. I think it's gonna be app. Let's start at the top first. Add Razor components, add interactive WebAssembly components instead of whatever was there before. And use anti-forgery. I already have that as well. And I removed those Blazor framework files and the map fallback to file. I did already remove that. And then it wants add interactive WebAssembly render mode. That is good. It should reference the app. I don't know why it can't. Okay, it's in the same file. And then there's one more line I need to add additional assemblies, type of, oops. Client app namespace, so that's, I think, brand.spa. And then .imports, and then .assembly. Just like that. Let's now clean everything, rebuild, and let's run the server project, since that's the startup project that should host the WebAssembly. Everything built correctly. I'm authenticated. I imagine my interactivity is fine. But I'm still not seeing my components that I should be able to access as an administrator. So it seems to be the same issue as before we did all the changes. I hoped that would have been solved after doing all of this. Yeah, that's gonna be another night of debugging and maybe playing around with state has changed and the render fragments and so on, the event callbacks maybe. I'm not using the standard Blazor authentication components like the authorized view and the cascading values and all that stuff, so that shouldn't be my issue, at least. Seems to be more with rendering after a property got updated, re-rendering, and the render fragments to... I just added that because I don't think it has anything to do with the identity implementation on Blazor, at least not for my application, since I'm not using that. It's something in here that doesn't update correctly, so this has access is true. I'm logged in and I have access, but for some reason this one doesn't. It always shows the no access instead of the has access, because either I'm going to try to put that in production, even though it's not properly working. It's better than what's currently out on there. The Azure App Services do support the official .NET 8 by now. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and make sure to check my Patreon where you can find most of my code. I hope I see you in the next video.